Hi everyone, my name is Abbey Callegari and I'm here to talk to you about the internship I'm doing with Dr. Mutsert. I'm working with my partner Jaidyn and we're helping out one of her graduate students perform an experiment studying how hypoxia affects oysters. I'm here today to show you where we do our experiments and kind of what we do. Alright, so this is where we keep our oysters that we do our research on. There's 6 arrays, 3 on each side. Each array has 4 different tanks, and in each tank there are 20 oysters. I have a little setup over there where I want to show you how we get our measurements and everything. Alright, so we use this water quality meter to get our daily measurements every day. We just take it and we stick it in the water and we kind of hold it there, try not to mess with any of the oysters, and we wait till these numbers stop moving. We're looking at our temperature, DO percent, DO milligrams per liter, and our salinity. So after we get all of our data, we all report it on this little sheet. And once we get all of these numbers, we go and count all the mortalities and adjust our settings based on that. Once we adjust our settings, these machines will push out the amount of salinity and water that we need for it to get to the right salinity, DO, and temperature. After we have done that, another daily task we do is feed all the oysters. We base how much we feed them off how many oysters are in each tank and what their starting weight was. So that was a basic rundown of the daily task we do here to complete this research. Some other things we do are go out and collect oysters, because every 5 days we have to take out an array of oysters so that we can measure them and compare them to how they were in the beginning. Okay. After every 30 days, we have to go to the other campus where they keep an oyster farm and collect oysters from there. We go down there and count out about how many we would need. We get a couple extra just in case some end up being too small, and we'll go through and weigh all of those to put them back in the tanks and restart. Now I'm going to show you some clips from us going out on the boat and going to the oyster farm past Deer Island to collect some oysters. As I just mentioned, here are some photos and videos of our trip to collect oysters. These are videos of the oyster farm off Deer Island. This was a fun experience for us to go out and see where and how the oysters are raised. After the trip, we went back to the Halstead campus to count out the oysters we need. This picture shows the large pool the oysters are kept in. To count out the right-sized oysters, we used a 9mm sifter to separate out the oysters that are too small. Once we count out our oysters, we move them to smaller tanks shown in the photo. Once the oysters are acclimated, we move them to the tanks in our lab on the Cedar Point campus. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, after so many days, we take the oysters out to weigh and measure them to see how they have grown in the conditions set. These photos show how the oysters are laid out to make sure we get all measurements. Once we collect length, width, and weight for each oyster, we open them and separate the meat and shells to get an average wet and dry weight for each tank. After we get all the measurements, we compare the start and finish measurements to see how dissolved oxygen has affected the oysters. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed this experiment.